I tripled my revenue in a quarter when my mum died. I believe you should fish where the fish are in business. If you come to start your business and you just make your money back, you've failed. Maybe you've actually just got to go back and figure out who were you before you became who the world told you to be. I call it golden handcuffs. What you're doing is working, but you no longer love it, but you're being paid and you can do whatever the fuck you want in your spare time. There's generally a reason people seek out personal growth.
Look at what you're saying that you want to do and ask yourself, are you making the right moves towards what you want to do?
When you're in the trenches, you've got to know what your why is. You've got to know your purpose, because it's the thing that's going to power you through. Sell yourself, because the first people who will pay you, who will buy from you, no matter what business you are people who trust you. If you do so many things, people don't know what you do. That's the complete opposite of building a brand. Be the version of yourself that makes you happy, that lights up a room, to live your purpose. I think that's a gift.
And we are back with the Frankie podcast. And today, guys, I have you another barnstorming guest. This woman has scaled multiple brands to multiple millions and is a marketing genius, in my opinion, with what she's achieved and everything else. Jenna Davies, welcome to England and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. We finally made this happen, and what a way to do it in this part of the world as well.
Yeah, we never thought it was going to happen over here. We thought it was going to happen back in Australia, but obviously we never got time before I left last year and everything else that went on. But I want to give people, obviously, look, you've built multiple brands and you're doing something good with Big Uppetite at the minute. We're scaling that. And I really want to give people the actionable marketing insights today that they can put straight to their business to make them more money and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But where I want to start with you is obviously the journey of how you've got there and then the pivot that's recently happened, because I think that'll give people a little bit of context into how much you've had to overcome to even get where you are right now. There's a lot that's gone into that.
Yeah.
Let's just pull it back, because obviously where I first started to see you have success in the online space was when you started to sell products more digitally off the back of your Instagram following. Mm-hmm. Give me a bit of an insight into how you built that first business.
So it very much was leveraging a platform that I'd created through a hobby and a passion. I was bodybuilding at the time. I was using Instagram just to share my journey, to keep myself accountable, and it quickly grew through networking, through my profession, and then obviously my passion as well. And that opened opportunities for me to sell and to generate revenue on the platform through sponsorships like activewear. I was sponsored by Riderwear 6 years ago, and I'm still with them today, and EHP Labs at the time, and obviously earning commission. And as a younger version of myself with a smaller following in this fitness industry, which is such an aspirational category. You're so inspired by the people who have millions of followers and are generating this income of low ticket. And I just kind of thought, why not give it a crack? You know, I created a marketing ebook, called it Your Game Plan. I also sold a booty guide at the time, and guess which one did better. But it really showed me that there is the possibility to sell online, and you don't need to be this big colossal brand or personal profile to do it. So I started generating revenue when I had a job working in marketing, and I recognized that in this fitness space, there's a lot of people like I did dip the toe in the online products, but they just don't know what they're doing from a business point of view. And why would they? They've mastered their craft as coaches. And I was building such a solid network in the fitness industry that I was able to help so many people. That's when my Jenna Davies marketing was born in 2019. I started a consulting agency. And then through the consulting process, I identified this journey that was really similar for everyone, because the assumed level of knowledge that I had for my leads and clients was much higher than where it actually was. So I was able to automate that process to serve a market and solve a problem. And that's kind of where it started. That was the first switch where I let go of all the clients that I was working with, and I focused on creating this program. It's the fitness business strategy, and it still exists today. And it really took off in the market that I wanted to serve, and just gave me so much more insight and leverage to then build Big Uppetite on the back end of that.
So essentially then what you did was you took a passion that you had in fitness, then you put your marketing agency around your passion and pivoted into that, and then you realized that you as a consultant on your own, you need to effectively turn that into a digital product to sell it and leverage.
Exactly. And are parts to this problem that I was solving that I wasn't actually. It's investing in proximity. I was telling people to where to go to get a website. I was telling people how to brief graphics, and I just thought, I'll do it. And I then, in working through corporate, in being in a marketer for so long, I had the contractors and the contacts that could help me bring this vision to life. And I was, started like any business does, really. You work with contractors and then you bring it in-house, and then you learn about running an in-house team. And you're having recently undergone a big restructure in the business. Now we have everything in-house, and we are able to actually deliver and control the full product as well. So not only are we providing that advice and the strategic solution, we're also then providing the product, the design and the development as well.
I want to dive into this pivot, because there's a pivot in here that I think is what a lot of people are struggling to get from, and that is from the pivot where you go from consultant, where you are solving people's problems, you're probably swapping a bit of time for money and doing that kind of stuff, to realizing at that point you need to structure this into a business and a vehicle that can serve you and move you forward, because obviously it caps out at like $1 million plus a year kind of business, which is kind of where you were, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So what was that kind of penultimate moment where you decided, okay, I've got a business that does me over $1 million a year, but it's a lifestyle business. So, and what made you pivot
from the sort of cash products into the agencies? So I saw the writing on the wall. I was competing when I was selling the fitness business strategy. I was very strategic when I timed the launch of any product that I sold or any campaign. It was around prep, where my Instagram had a lot of organic traffic and I was very relevant to my market. And I recognized that I either keep competing and play that game to stay relevant, or find a way to stay relevant in fitness, which is hinged on my identity. And I had put on weight after one of my shows, and I recognized that could hurt my business. And so then you realize that you've built a brand that's hinged on your identity. And I don't believe that's healthy, because you struggle to show up when you don't feel like the version of yourself that everybody knows you as. You post photo shoot photos that are 12 weeks old or a year old, and then, you don't want to show up on your story or posting check-ins where you're subjected to people's opinions. And that's fitness specific. But if you're a personal brand and you're not in fitness, let's say you're a real estate agent or in finance, if you don't work, you don't get paid. Obviously, you can scale it to the digital elements of as far as digital tech allows you to, with group coaching and courses and all the rest, but it's hinged on your identity. And I know that in order to grow and scale, if you look at the greatest brands in the world, they're not necessarily, I'm not going to say they're not people, but they're affiliated with companies and communities, and they're customer led. So I really wanted to create a business that was customer led. I wanted to help people and show people that the results I could get were more attainable to them. And it had actually nothing to do with how I looked. It was about what I cared about. So the sacrifice and the restructure of the business was really challenging, because you're used to living a lifestyle that, you see it, and it's what you see on social media when you have spare time and nice things and can travel, and people are so young making so much cash in the fitness industry. It's true. But I just thought, what if I wanted to have a family or get pregnant or just chill out? And I never used to think like that. Even as a woman, I just never used to think like that. And I recognize the pressure that you put on yourself when you have to show up all the time, and we deserve privacy as people as well. So I wanted to build it. I believe true freedom is doing whatever the fuck you want. And if you can't do that because you don't make money, then to me, that's not, you haven't done it, right?
So essentially people then are getting tied to this identity that they create, in the 2018 version of them that they create. They have to continue this on right the way through to like 2020, 30 potentially, because they've created a niche of people that follow them for that specific thing.
Exactly.
But as they evolve as a human being, they get that they can't then show that on the platform, is what you're saying. So you get two. So that's probably like the dichotomy of a personal brand, isn't it? Like you have to have a personal brand, a reputation that evolves with you if you're going to go into personal branding, rather than one that's tied to a certain demographic.
Exactly. And people have done it. Look at Layne Norton, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, look at how these brands have evolved over time. Layne was a bodybuilder, a power lifter, an educator, an entrepreneur, and he's really elevated by doing, leading by example, but he's also built businesses that allow him to serve a market without him. And I think that transition is really important, but it's really hard to do. Also mentally, I call it golden handcuffs, because what you're doing is working, but you no longer love it, but you're being paid and you can do whatever the fuck you want in your spare time, essentially. So that then puts you in this trap. I don't know if you've ever worked in a sales role, but I remember I sort of had a similar feeling, and I've only recently identified this in being here, that I had these golden handcuffs on 2 years ago that I also had when I was in my first sales job, because you're making good money, you're chasing numbers, you can do whatever you want, but you actually aren't happy. And that is the indicator that you need to elevate and change your brand, and changing your messaging and changing your target audience. Like, you can do it gradually, or you can come out and make some sort of statement, but people will come and go, or they're not going to identify with you. And you see it in numbers, leads, engagement. I saw it. I lost like 20,000 followers since I was competing, but also built the most successful version of myself ever. So you just kind of have to roll with the punches when you're trying to elevate out of that as well.
Is that quite difficult for someone to lose 20,000 followers by going into, even though you knew it was for your own self and you're going into it, is it quite difficult to see that get taken away?
I took it as a sign that I was doing something right. I took it as a sign that I was aligned with my values and doing something right. I had a following at one point of 70% men in America. When I was competing in bodybuilding, they have absolutely nothing to do with my current offer, my values and my purpose. I didn't mean to pick them up. I wasn't, trying. I guess you could say I was. I was doing photo shoots and posting my body on Instagram, which I wouldn't even do now. And in talking about marketing, branding, personal growth, my journey since losing my mom, being a bit more vulnerable, playful, and not so revealing, I'd pushed away a large portion of my audience, which, when brands look for people to sponsor, they look for follower size, or they used to. This is why nano influencers are now the biggest thing in marketing, because the big number, so many people are bots these days. I mean, so many of them are bots, and then they could be an irrelevant audience to who you're trying to work with. Like men in America for me 2 years ago, can't necessarily monetize them unless I was working with like Pioneer belts. They sent me a belt at one stage, but now I want to use it as a vessel to support my business, to reach people who want what I can offer them. And so it's much more targeted.
So essentially what you did is, by going into a niche that you were passionate about, and you didn't realize you were building an audience that you couldn't essentially monetize in a way that would align with you in the future, because it's like, that kind of audience that you're building on the back of bodybuilding goes more on the demographic of doing like OnlyFans content or something like that, not marketing, not business strategy.
Exactly. And you see this, I see it a lot in our business with some of our clients. Let's say they compete, but they want to work with Gen Pop. I'm like, we're scaring away Gen Pop by putting out all your prep shots. You've got to, I believe a lot of people scratch the surface when it comes to finding their purpose and their brand values. It's really important that you know your vision and why you're doing it in business, so that you can stay strongly connected to your brand values across every platform that you choose, because it's easy to show what you're doing and the result of it, especially when you're making money and it's working. But then you're like, hang on, I actually need to continue to pull my messaging back to where I want to be. Otherwise, you can literally detour and build a really massive successful business and hate it, but you've kind of just gone where the opportunity is versus going where you actually really want to go.
So if you were going to give your most actionable advice now, telling people how they could build their audience in the right way from scratch, if you were going to start again, what would you say?
Know exactly who you're talking to. Start with your audience. I believe you should fish where the fish are in business, and know the deepest level of them. I'm all for narrowing your niche. If you're earning under $1 million, you've really got to focus one person, one channel, one product, and have a single-minded focus, and know the deepest pain points that they have around the solution that you offer and why they deeply need it. Because with growing a business online, you assume that your followers are your total addressable market or your opportunity, but they're not. You've only got a certain percentage of engagement and viewers, and not everyone's ready to buy. Most of the time, people are asleep watching your content. They're unconscious to what you're actually selling, especially if you sell all the time. So if you really know your audience, you can raise problem awareness with your content by posting with a really strong hook, right? Like, for example, you could be like stressed or tired or confused and lead with an emotion that then attaches to what the problem is, whether it's being overweight, shredding for a wedding, self-loathing for their body, or whatever that is. And it's then that you can really catch the attention of the person who goes, oh my God, they're speaking to me. And it's the same thing, you know, in any industry. I could talk to somebody who's tired of trying to grow their social media, feels like they've done all the things, but they're just not seeing the conversions. And I can say, well, maybe it's not your marketing, maybe it's your message. And they're like, okay, I'm ready to talk to you now. Tell me more. So you've got to be really pointy. The more descriptive you can be with who you're here to serve, the more you're going to gain market insight to further improve your solution, to then get better results that you can leverage to then build a business off it.
Yeah, and what would you say then to people that are even struggling to find out who they need to become in order to get to this? Because obviously that's what you've addressed there. You've addressed what they should do in order to get themselves so they can build this brand and everything like that. But it's like, who do they need to become, and how do they get to that person in the quickest possible way? Because you've had to go through a lot of identity shifts in your life to get to where you are right now, so that you know that information. But if we were trying to short circuit that for this audience, what would be your advice there?
So I'm going to tell you what I did. Take a minute, go inward, get out, go away. Don't do what you usually do just for a period of time. It could be a weekend in the bush. It could just be some time, half an hour without your phone, nothing, just sit and do nothing and just really listen to yourself, because we fill our heads with busyness. We are so busy. We are stressed. We are focused. We are goal driven. We've always got something to do, whether you have a job or a business, and we're never done. We're never there. And so that cloudiness, the lack of clarity distracts us from what it is that we really want. You have to know what you want and how important it is to you. And you have to really want it, because if you don't do what you want, you're going to do what other people want you to do. And that is something to really come back to and think, am I happy? What am I doing when I'm happiest? Why does this make me happy? What does it mean to me? And you need a guide. Like, I'm not playing like a therapist. I worked with people. I still work with a therapist and an NLP coach. And I actively sought this journey. I lost my mum first, coming up to her 4-year anniversary, and that rocked me. It really, really rocked me. And I just was so terrified of how I would react and respond to that and how it would change my life, that I went, you know, as you do, balance of extremes, the complete other way. I was studying NLP. I was reading books about ikigai and, you know, the Japanese word for purpose. And I really tried to discover what it meant. And then I came to the conclusion that for me, it meant freedom, which was so confusing because I work 60 hours a week. I'm a slave to a laptop and I'm very responsive to so many people. I'm in so many ways not free, but on the flip side of that, I'm very free to do what I want. I'm here with you on a Thursday. I, you know, have a business that allows that to happen. So I've actually built that already. And my advice to people in business who don't know how to find their values to build the business that aligns with it, you got to go look for them, you know. And I feel like when we're kids, these values are so strong. We're playful, we're adventurous. You can tell very quickly who's kind and caring, who wants to build with other people, who wants to go play. Kids, their personalities really shine through. And parents and teachers kind of like make them calm and blend in and all act like each other. And that's a point in life where we then spend the rest of our lives being like each other. But maybe you've actually just got to go back and figure out, who were you before you became who the world told you to be? And that's how you build your business.
So did stripping it back that much come when you had to look inward on like the death of your mom and overcome that pain that you obviously feel from that moment?
Definitely. I mean, I had a trigger. That was my mom's death that pushed me down that journey. And the business that I built on the back end of that at that point in time was 3 times more successful. I tripled my revenue in a quarter when my mom died. Which, I mean, obviously at the time I was like band-aiding with work. We were in COVID. We didn't have much else to do. but there's generally a reason that people seek out personal growth. Most people, I believe, cruise through life doing what they're doing, and you look up and you get to the end of the year and you're kind of where you started it, more or less, except for the things outside of your control that change, like a breakup or you had to move house. But is that really growth, or is it just change? I think we only really seek to grow when something happens that makes us feel like we're stuck, and it's usually an emotional trigger that's beyond your control. But unless it's something super compelling like death or grief or loss, people tend not to seek out the answers to these big questions.
I found it powerful when you're talking throughout that chapter, when you're talking about essentially people having their ladders leaning against the wrong wall. They're going for growth's sake. I've had many parts of my life that the audience understands that, where I've seeked things that on the outside would seem validating, but on the inside I felt empty, and there's, when you're talking about the death of your mom and all that and how that triggered you, I had to let something die within myself, my own self, to free me, to take me to the next level. So death is a horrible word that people always associate just with losing people, but death is something that has to happen inside of you so many times along your journey in order for you to reflower and reflourish in every other area of your life.
Yeah.
And it's something you have to be willing to. So what am I saying here? I'm saying you have to kill things that do no longer support the journey to where you want to go. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to identify that. So what is that to you?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's what you got to ask yourself essentially.
I worked with a marketer. He was my manager when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and he taught me the concept of kill your darlings. And in a creative term, you essentially, or in product marketing at the time, you would kill the SKUs or the items that were no longer generating the revenue they needed to. They were holding too much space in the portfolio. They were costing money, and it's better just to let them go, make space in the warehouse for something else, basically. Make space in your mind for something else. And in business, that happens a lot because, especially as a founder, you are emotionally attached to your identity. You may have a great idea that you believe in. I had clients come and work with me recently, and I loved their product offering. They were selling a 24-week fat loss program, but the first 12 weeks you spend in a build, you spend at maintenance so that you can really prep your body for fat loss. And I'm like, I love this product, but it wasn't selling. And nobody wants to lose weight the slow way, right? But people want to lose it the right way. When you know your market, they're tired and exhausted. All we had to do was repackage it, change the messaging and appeal to the right person. But you have to break up with the idea that you had in the first place. You have to kill your darling. And that happens so often, the one thing that I've learned, as soon as you make a decision, it's done. And everything else around that is just starting to hold you back or take up your time. As soon as you've had a thought, and it's funny because I remember somebody said to me, as soon as you've made the decision to compete, you're on your journey to the stage. And at the time, that's like the exact same principle. But now I say, as soon as you've made a decision, it's done. That's the same thing with like kill your darlings. And if you're holding on to this message or this logo or this identity or this team or this tech or whatever it is, if it's actually not serving where you've got to go or where you're trying to grow to, then you've got to move through that.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, because when I was in LA podcasting, I was trying to podcast, I was trying to write a book, I was trying to run contentremoval.com, and I was trying to do some other stuff. And I sat there and I was on the phone call to my mate James in Australia, a very successful entrepreneur, always kind of mentored me around this space, done millions online. And he goes, Frankie, I'm going to tell you something straight. It's like, you got to kill some of these things. You got to kill them. Like, why are you writing a book right now? He says, I know the book's going to be good. I know the book's going to, but shelve it. Shelve that. Shelve this. Get back to just doing the podcast, doing what you're purposeful, doing content removal, doing the podcast. And that's all I do now. And when you get back to just doing what you should be doing, don't get me wrong, I've added in a bit of coaching that just because I want to because I'm passionate about it. But I don't do it just for money. I just do it as a passionate side thing that allows me, because I enjoy it. So it's just about being radically honest with yourself in all areas of your life and saying, look, what am I doing here that's not really giving me the result? Because like, it's the 80-20 principle, isn't it? 80% of what you do, only 20% of it will give you the result anyway.
And also, is it actually serving your purpose, or is it just making you money? Because it fractures your brand. If you do so many things, people don't know what you do. That's the complete opposite of building a brand. Building a brand is you look at it and it's immediately identifiable. It's easy to say, it's easy to understand, and I know exactly what you do. And then if you leave the brand recall, I'm able to pass on to my friend what you do in a sentence. And if you do so many different things, people go, who's that girl? What does she do again? Oh, she does that. I'm not sure if she's a comedian. Not sure if she's a coach. It's like it's fracturing unless you're a multi-millionaire, unless you're Shaquille O'Neal, you can't endorse so many freaking products and services because, you actually are killing the mother brand by just not even building it in the first place.
So would you advise then that how would you advise people who want to start a quote unquote brand? How do they pick out whether they go under their name or whether they go business brand and build it like the same way? Because obviously you've done both. You've built the personal and you've built it under your name, and then you've pivoted and now you're building under Big Uppetite and you're building under that brand, and that's a whole different ball game. How does they identify which way to go and what's right for them on that score? Because that is a big fork in the road.
Leverage. It's your total addressable market. If you have a personal brand and you've got hundreds of thousands of followers and there's people who you can sell sand to, they love you, they are your loyal followers, build a brand. You've already built your personal brand, right? But it might not be what you want to sell. Like you might now want to come out with activewear or something. So just sell the activewear. But if you are just getting started from a small town, your 800 followers are your friends and family and cousins and their family, and you don't believe that you've got the market, sell yourself, because the first people who will pay you, who will buy from you, no matter what business you are people who trust you. They believe nobody buys anything that they think is not going to work for the first time, right? Unless they're stupid. So the people who are first going to buy from you know, like, and trust you. So go where they are. And it might be your family and friends. People say don't do business, mix business and pleasure, but I completely disagree with that. I really do.
So what part of don't mix business with pleasure do you disagree with?
You should get pleasure from your business, and if you love what you do, you should be able to help or want to help anyone and everyone, non-exclusive. Like, yes, you need boundaries. Maybe I'm not saying don't work with your family. I wouldn't hire my dad, but, I'm just saying there's obviously a way that you could take that statement. And I think when referring to starting a business, you will sell to your friends. You will. And you will learn from them because they will be the most honest. All your clients may become your friends. And you will then learn as you evolve how to put boundaries in place so that doesn't happen. I've done that. I've worked with friends. I've made friends from team members and clients and contractors. And I'm probably not as accessible to my team now. Not as accessible. I just mean that's not the energy that I put out. And I think as you scale, they say there's your 7 people that you hire will share your vision, but anything beyond that, it starts to get weaker. So your first 7 hires or your 7 senior members are super important because they're the ones that share the vision for you.
They teach the whole ethos of your business and how it's set up from the structure you start with, right?
Exactly. And if you're really building a multi 8-figure business and they're remunerated well, they don't want to go and start the business for themselves. They run it like it's their business and they sort of have their individual silos for you. So when getting started, should you be a person or should you be a brand? Again, what is going to get you the quickest return on investment? Because you can leverage the success that you've built as a personal brand to then rebrand in 12 months' time. Look at Kayla Itzinas with Sweat, Rachel with Move With Us. Look at all the Australian market. You see how Lauren built
Tammy Hembrow, Substance Collection.
Exactly. And so that, and even Chrissy Seller, she's got I think 4 companies. She's killing it over here. And that's an example of the stepping stone approach. And we talk about pivoting in business, but there's so many people who are trying to leap. They're in their 30s or in their 20s. They're either cash rich, making money, and they just think, now I'm just going to do that, right? But really, the market runs out in the sense that the barriers to switching and loyalty are so low. So is loyalty with it being such an easy way to consume media and to buy and shop now, that you really want to make sure that you've got the proof, the trust, the credibility, and the product and service that does what it says it does. And I think that's where the focus should be always.
Yeah, I think people focus too much on the money at the start as well and trying to generate all this money from what they do, rather than saying to themselves, okay, what actually is going to serve me, but also allow me to serve a market of a decent enough size to make some money? And also, is the problem I'm solving painful, and can I charge enough money for it to actually make this business work for me, in essence? Because everyone's on about starting the business and having the brand and all this, that and the other, but you got to understand that the reason you're building this vehicle ultimately is not only to serve others, but to serve yourself as well. You have to serve yourself, and you don't want to be a slave to a ship that's serving loads of other people, but then you're not getting the remuneration, and you haven't got the time freedom, and you're tied to this beast that you've built, but it's not even something that you can use in your own life now, because you can't. You talk about you being here on a Thursday. Well, that's because you've built something that allows you to be here on a Thursday. But if you build something that ties you into it so you can't be here on a Thursday, and you've still got to serve clients, and you're bringing value to the marketplace, but you're left empty, that's not a good business.
I always ask my clients when we get started, the first question is, what does a Thursday look like for you? What do you want it to look like? What's your ideal Thursday look like? And when we get started, I let them go on their own little journey after our first session. What is your why? Why are you really here? Because your business is a vessel. And no matter how much you want to help others, you want to help yourself, right? So when the work is hard, running a business is stressful, it is hard, it is uncomfortable, and then it becomes easy, and then you get hard and uncomfortable all over again. And so when you're in the trenches, you've got to know what your why is. You've got to know your purpose, because it's the thing that's going to power you through. And so right at the start, I ask, what does your ideal life look like? Because everything that we build needs to align with how we get there, right? So if you say, I want to go traveling, live off the radar, I want to just be unknown and just have built this big vessel, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to get you speaking on stages then, are we? We've got to start focusing on building your team, building your community. And the strategy that we derive for our clients is entirely dependent on where they want to go. I had a new client come on yesterday, and she wants to do speaking events around the world. I said to her, do you have a podcast? She said, no. I said, well, don't you want to validate your dream now? Don't you want to start practicing now? You're not even doing the thing that you want to be doing, which is speaking.
Yeah, I knew from day one, when I planned the why statement for this podcast and everything I'm trying to bring to the world, I knew that speaking and communication was something that I wanted to do in the world and on stage and stuff like that. But obviously you can't even articulate your ideas or put yourself in the vicinity of those kind of places that I want to walk on stage without first practicing, doing 100 reps, 150 reps, 200 reps of a podcast, of something like this, where you get to communicate with high value people like yourself, and then see, just when to pause, when to stop, when to slow it down, when to have a break, all these intricate details you learn from practicing the art before you step into the arena. Exactly. And that's just before you step into the arena. And then when you step into the arena, because I have spoken on stage now, that's a whole different ball game again.
Yeah.
Like even if it's just 100, 200 people that you're speaking to, that is a different feeling. I've done a live podcast on stage in front of that many people, and it's a different feeling to doing it in this environment. It's a totally different ball game. It switches you on in different ways. So always look at what you're saying that you want to do and ask yourself, are you making the right moves towards what you want to do? Because saying you want to be a speaker and then not being willing to start a podcast is counterintuitive to ask yourself, well, do you even want that? Is that even your goal, or is that your goal because you saw someone else doing well in podcasting? And
that brings with it this cognitive dissonance or this void. And I've personally found myself there recently, and I'll take it somewhere else for a minute, but I came to the UK, came to London to work with our software engineering team to build and scale the business. I spent weeks working, had a few weeks off, and then I was flying home. And I got sick on my third day off, and I ended up in a hospital, in a coma, in Leeds for 3 weeks with my dad and my sister, who flew over thinking I was going to die. And then I come out, don't get any time off. I start work on the Monday. My time off, I was lying on my back, resting and recovering, doesn't count. And then I start work, and I'm all of a sudden in a new house with housemates, waking up to start my calls at 6 a.m., which means I wasn't doing my normal routine. everything just changed. My whole life just changed. I didn't even realize, because I'm so adaptable. Like, that's how you pivot, right? You have to be adaptable. And then the other day I was kind of like, why am I not making content? Why am I not showing up like my usual self? Why am I hiding? And I realized I'm just like surviving, but I'm thriving at the same time. But I was in this void where you're neither here nor there. I'm not where I want to be. I can't show up and say, this piece of tech that we've just finished is live. I'm killing it. This is what's happening. I'm like in the building phase, and then I'm not where I was. I'm not where I was living. I'm not bodybuilder Jenna. I'm not in Sydney. So I'm kind of like, it's this imposter syndrome or feeling, and you've got to keep choosing you, because the fear will take me back to what's easy. It's so easy for me to post training videos on my story. I could make a training reel a week because I go train and I'm confident to share that content. But when I'm working, like writing a website or creating a campaign, why am I not being like, this is how you do that, you know? And I think that it brings with it this fear that keeps you playing safe instead of asking yourself, am I choosing the life you want? And fear is what keeps people there, and then they become unhappy with it. But that actually getting out of that pattern, breaking that pattern and choosing the life that you want is so hard, because the way that our brains are designed and our environment has been created, that we've created ourselves, there's layers that pull you right back. Like if I literally wasn't in London, how long do you think until I was fully just back to normal? You know, go back to my apartment, back into my routine, back to the same problems, same friends, same faces. I came here to grow. And now all of a sudden, all that has been taken away from me physically. And I actually can't be more grateful for what happened, because it's an external thing that forced me to break a pattern.
I wanna strip it back just so to give full context to this. Obviously, I'm talking to you before Christmas. Obviously, know you're in the UK. We're teeing up a podcast.
That was the day.
And then you go silent on me, right? And I'm thinking to myself, this is unusual, because obviously we talk a lot of, messaging back and forth about, might ask me something about business or whatever. But anyway, it was unusual. And I thought, that's strange, but she's just enjoying London. About 5 or 6 days in, I'm like, this is weird. And then you pop up and you've been in a coma for 9 days or something like that. And obviously this was 20 days ago you came out of a coma, right? Mm. Which is mental when you actually think about that. And it was the way life gave you a hard reset and a pause was just like nothing else I've ever seen. It's just like, right, you need to literally switch off, and this is what I'm going to give you, because you need to pivot.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of felt that life was giving you.
Yeah.
Like, thank God you're here and you're well, and it's like nothing's ever happened. But it's like, let's not forget, 20 days ago, walk me through, like you must have had like visions in this coma. You must have had, this, when you're put into an inducing like that, crazy things happen. I've heard other stories. Like,
yeah.
What was that even like? I mean, what was your knowledge even going into this? Like,
I was messaging you the day that I was going up to Leeds to visit my auntie, and we went out to dinner that night. I thought I got food poisoning at 3 a.m. I woke up vomiting, and I said to her, but I could not see. My brain was in so much pain. I felt like my head was going to explode. Like, I honestly was just holding my head and vomiting in the toilet. And I said to her, something's wrong. Like, I need help now. And she was kind of, 3 a.m., tired, getting dressed, getting ready slowly. And I said, we've got to go. I vomited the whole way to the hospital. I just thought I had food poisoning. And I'm working with a therapist on this because it's really triggering for me to sort of reflect on for many reasons. But the version or reality that I have in my head, I don't know to be true. I was hallucinating. I had high fevers. I was on a lot of drugs, and I was put in an induced coma. And if I was to play for you the movie of what I see in my head, of what I went through, it's kind of funny now that I think about it. I'm like, that can't be real. Like, I was in ICU in an induced coma, and I am imagining people living in the hospital, Christmas lunches. Like, it wasn't real. It wasn't real. But I was also so vulnerable. I was not at all independent in any way, shape or form. And being kept in a coma, my family, I woke up to see my family in England. I didn't believe they were there. And then the worst part was coming out of the coma and going into a general ward for a few days. And you kind of look around at the older people that are in there with you, You hear screams at night, so you think you do. You don't sleep. Everything's beeping. The machines are buzzing. And it's like literally where people go to die, or they get to the end of their life because they lived lives with poor health. Mind you, there I am as well. But at that point, I felt like a child. And I'm kind of looking around thinking, why are you? Yeah, it just makes you question your whole life. I was lying there 3 a.m. waiting till visiting hours at 11. I didn't even care about sleep, right? I'd given up on it. The nightmares in my head of where I was, and the deep, dark thoughts like, who am I? Do I like the life that I've chosen? Do I want to go study? Do I want to get a job? Do I love my business? Who's got my back? Like, I didn't have a phone either for a period of time, so because of the brain swelling, they didn't want me on technology when I first woke up. And you just realize, you take somebody completely out of their life, away from their family, put them in, make them vulnerable in a gown, not even able to eat or drink, like on their own, essentially, and take everything away from them and leave them there for like 3 days. The thoughts that go through your head, right? And
what thoughts?
I just actually found so much gratitude and love for the people that I have in my life, because they are my family. And family for me is something that I've always really struggled with for many reasons. And I just felt like a victim to that. I think obviously having lost my mom and immigrating and divorce and all these, I had the story that I'd always told myself was that, very turbulent upbringing. And I found a lot of love in my life in that period in time. And I recognized that I was safe there. Like, I have a team that ran my business whilst I was in that period of time. I had projects that I woke up to being completed essentially when I got out of hospital. A community of support that I'd built that I didn't actually have to do anything for. Like I mean friends that love you back, the team that works for you because they know the vision and the mission, and the family that come and support you. And I had a lot of gratitude and a lot of, that saying, if you throw your problems in a pile, you'd grab them right back. I really wanted to get out of that hospital because I was choosing my life. I got up on the last day and I walked the halls and I found the doctor and I said, I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm going back to my life because I love it. And even though it's a completely different looking life here, I've realized we're not human doings or human havings. You can take me away from all my things, all my clothes, all my stuff, my house, my car, my friends, and I'm still who I am. Like, I really know that. And I think I found a lot of gratitude for that.
Quick one for you guys. This podcast is sponsored by contentremoval.com. As many of you are probably aware, I set up contentremoval.com in 2017 to help people remove all forms of online content, and I've looked after some of the biggest names and brands in the world doing it, and I would love to help you if you're struggling. If you're struggling to remove images, videos, search results, fake accounts, or anything online, go to contentremoval.com and we'll help you today. Did at any point through the process you feel like you were dying, so to speak, like in terms of like what? Because obviously you got to a point there where you kind of, it could have gone one way or the other, and like you were on the verge of a death from this world, essentially. So what does that actually truly feel like when you're in that moment? Does it feel like what people describe it as? Because I've spoken to someone about this before, and they said to me, Frankie, when I was in that position, that I felt the most peaceful.
Yeah. I honestly, no, I didn't have that because I didn't even really know what meningitis was. And then I found out they did a lumbar puncture when they put me in a coma and I had meningococcal. They called my family because they said that there's a 50-50 chance I could lose a limb. And because the brain swelling was so bad and I was in a coma, they were really concerned that I would wake up with permanent brain damage, if not memory loss. And so you got to remember, key part here, I went in thinking it was the tie. So when I woke up from my coma, obviously very dazed and confused, and they told me that I had meningococcal, I laughed. I was like, no, I don't. You guys have got it wrong. And I literally was quite still out of it. And I was just quite confident that they were wrong. And they were telling me, you can't fly home. Like, this is a big deal. For every 1 day in ICU, it takes a week to recover. I was like, watch me. you're going to lose a lot of strength. I'm like, I've only been in here for 8 days. How bad can it be? Everything, I know you know this about me, but everything they said to me, I was like, no, it's not real. It's not real. And it only became real kind of like as I got out of there and I realized, oh my God, this is heavy. I'm tired. I can't walk upstairs. This is horrible. And I forget things. I was repeating myself. And like, it's all part of the recovery journey. But I didn't recognize how serious it was until I got out. And that's why I've started working with a therapist, because recognizing that my family had come over, at the time I thought they were planning a holiday. Like I was literally hallucinating. So at the time, I think they keep you either pretty safe from the reality that's going on by keeping you drugged, or I don't know, but I was in Disneyland in that place until I was in hell. And then it was only when I got out that I started to sort of have these flashbacks and these moments that, I'm either like sort of think I see my mom, or I have this like deep gratitude for what happened, or sorrow for what happened. And I'm super grateful. Like it was a medically induced coma. And since sharing this, I've connected with a lot of people who have shared that they have survived cancer and all of these, very serious conditions. And I don't want it to detract from things like that. But I believe, the saying, a healthy person has many wishes, a sick person has one. And until you've been on your version of your, bottom or deathbed, you're not going to know what that means, right? It's a subjective term, pain, trauma, suffering, whatever. So I had my version of it, and I really do believe 2024 was given to me. Like this is my year. Everything that I've been through the last few, I've done it so that I can help others. Because as a founder, as a business owner, as a human, you don't get to 30 and just continue sailing. No matter where you're from or how perfect you've got it, you start getting hit by life, whether it's a breakup, a marriage breakdown, or the death of loved ones. It starts coming at you, and what do you do? Yeah, take a minute, of course. We all need to, but really, I mean, we could all do that. We could all be depressed for 12 months and slow down, or take drugs and drink alcohol and cope in unhealthy ways. Like if you really want what you want, then you've got to learn to reframe this event, and you've got to learn to work through it.
Essentially, life was just giving you a real close look at maybe some of the pivots you had to make in business, in the way that you turn up for yourself, in the way that you look after yourself in life and stuff like that. So to put a bit of balance back into it.
Yeah.
Be like, is this business structured the way I want it to be? Is my life going the way it wants to be? It makes you think about all that stuff, slows everything right back down. And it's that slow period that's actually in everything that seems on the outside as this painful experience. And we've all been through them at different versions of life. And no one could tell you how that feels. But those slower periods, if you look for the lesson within it, there's often a gift for you.
Yeah.
And I think the gift for you in this moment is you've had a chance to go, well, I'm looking at what I'm building here. I'm looking at what I'm doing. Maybe I pivot this. Maybe I pivot that. Maybe I don't do this. Maybe I scale that. Maybe I operate like this in life. Maybe I put my health a bit more top of priority list, and it just gives you all these different reshuffles that are just powerful things.
And those reshuffles become actual restructures. Like I'm applying for a visa here. I've been building my team and building my tech, and coming back to the personal brand versus building a brand. I needed a minute. I posted a reel last night. It was the first reel I've posted essentially in a month. And that whole market, sell, it's exhausting. And if life cuts you down like that, as humans, when you need a minute, you need a minute. And I'm so grateful that I built this brand and the team and the community that I have and the tech to facilitate the vision that I have without me. And don't get me wrong, I'm only just getting started, but I've been the personal brand, I've been the sole trader, I've been the 7-figure business that was cash rich, and I loved it. But I'm most passionate about scaling my impact, and I want that to last. And I can always come back to that with even more authority when I've done what I've done. And that's why I'm so devoted to helping people really build the brand that is the vessel that brings their vision to life.
So essentially, this tech that you're building, what essentially are you building? Who's it for? And what made you decide to pivot a cash-rich business into tech? Because obviously it churns a lot of cash.
To break free from the golden handcuffs.
Do you still feel like you're in them now?
No. So I was. I mean, like making money, working hard, don't show up, don't make money. Don't work hard, don't make money. Right? So I really saw the vessel of tech as a way to, I built the business based off my brand. People still come because they only want to work with me. People will still say, I only want to do consulting with you. And I say, fine. But everything else now goes to the team. I don't say fine, I love to work with people, but everything else goes to the team. So the software, we launched our MVP last year. It's currently operating as a service as a software. It was there designed to alleviate the costs of the team and to improve efficiencies for us and to also create a better customer experience. Customers need to be prepped. When you're working with an online coach or an entry-level PT, which is who we were working with when we sort of first started, going into the online space, it's not that they need education, but there's a lot of work involved in building an online brand. And the problem with people who are cash rich in the fitness industry is they think they can just pay for it to be done. Like literally delegate, right? But you're a personal trainer. You're not a business owner. You need to learn to elevate so that your messaging becomes more effective. You need to learn how to write copy. You need to learn how to structure a website so that you can give me what I need from you because I can't do it for you. So the software was there to act as a resource hub, tools and templates, education, but then also this is what we're doing for you this week. We're building your website. This week we're automating your emails. This week we're designing your logo and style guide. So what I need from you is I need to know your brand values this week. This week I need to know your testimonials. I need your before and afters. And that in 6 weeks' time, this is what we're going to be doing. And it's not, this is just 101 building a business, but it's such a big beast. I have a life of experience in this space. I went to university. I've worked in corporate since I was 17. So, there's such a wealth of knowledge that people think they can pay for or get in a short course. And it's just not the case. So we've tried to be as effective as possible in making people better leaders, better managers, better marketers, better coaches, getting better results for their business so they can do it for us. So right now, it automated a lot of project management for us and set expectations for our clients. And now we're able to elevate that. We've built our own CMS and our own LMS, which means that we've built our own website builder for clients, which is completely tailored to our market.
Not white labeled or nothing.
Not white labeled. We're not white labeling anything. The website that you get when you build with us is yours. We can custom design your back end and your front end so that you know how to use it. That's the biggest problem with small businesses. You can't be adaptable or agile when you've got these ideas because you're weighed down by cost or lack of skills, right? It's your skill set that's going to hold you back, and you've invested into this expensive website that you don't know how to update, so you don't use it anymore, so you don't love it, and it just sits there. And then people find an old version of you that they don't identify with, and you're not converting. So that's a problem in business. And I really want freedom. That's what I'm most passionate about. I want freedom for founders. So yes, we have an offer so people stay with us. We maintain your service for you. We update, we design, develop and create ongoing. But also go live your life, to build your own business if that's what you want. I'm not here to lock your account or give people admin or edit only access. You know what I mean? We're trying to empower business owners to really create and have that freedom.
So what makes you different then to, obviously, like people can go and get out of the box CMSs and websites with things like Squarespace and all this kind of stuff. So what's separating you from that market? Because obviously there's a big price point difference in what you're doing. So what separates you from that, and how are you differentiating that?
For now, at this point in time, it's the experience. It's having the guidance to know what to put on your website. We design and develop for you. We write the copy for you based off what we learn from you about your market. So what you're getting back is created by experts with strategy and evidence and data versus you going to go try and do something yourself and writing Jenna Davies 12 weeks premium online coaching, right? Who doesn't sell that? So we give you the best chance to succeed when you launch, and then we're there for you when you're live to help you make that money back. It's not even make that money back. I hate that term. If you come to start your business and you just make your money back, you've failed. It's not a business, is it? Right? So what makes us different is that we put your customers first, because I believe what's going to scale your business is you being able to do the thing that you say you're going to do and creating a community of advocates that are going to sell for you, because that's organic marketing with the highest conversion possible. We know that people are 3 times more likely to buy when their friends and family recommend something to someone. So when all you have is time and money to leverage as a startup, organic marketing is important, results are important, and the way that you sell is important. And that's what we focus on.
Have you found, what's the conversion rate uptick in going from like the generic offer that they've presented on their own websites or whatever they've got currently to when they convert to this type of setup where they've had it structured, more of a structured deal flow in terms of like what their offer is, how it converts into like, well, how does that convert on the back end? Like, is it an uplift of 10%? Is it an uplift of 20%? What's the uplift in?
It's different for everyone depending on their market size, because we see with the conversion rate, the drop off. So you've got awareness, consideration, evaluation, purchase. And if you've got a large amount of website traffic, then obviously you're going to convert more than people who don't necessarily. So depending on where they are in their business journey, we'll structure it differently. What we actually offer is customizable and unique to every business we work with. This isn't some system. It's not a click funnel. It's not one size fits all. So you come to us with your offers and what you want to sell, and we'll give you advice, build and design and develop in the one way, monitor your data and then change it based on what's working, what's not, and feedback. But then somebody else who's a startup might be a completely different solution. So what we actually do offer is custom at this stage. We've got the team that works with individuals. So in terms of the data, it would be unique to your business. We'd have to look at your business data before us and then your business data after us.
I presume it's allowing people at this level of business as well to see data explained in a way that allows them to tweak their business to make more money. Because I think what happens is when you go ClickFunnels, when you go Facebook ads, ClickFunnels page, this and this and this and this, and you're driving traffic from Instagram, Facebook, Google, whatever, and then you put it all together. Not many people at that level where they're making between, say, 500k a year and 2 million, that they don't have access to the right data, so they can't make the right decisions. They kill ads that are actually profitable and they scale ads that aren't, and things start getting lost in translation because they can't see where it's converting. I suppose what you're saying is because the system's built custom in its back end, the data that you see allows them to drive the right decisions, which scales them.
You're so right. And a lot of startups don't have any data. A lot of and also the word startup, I almost honestly wouldn't use it for the personal brand. I don't think it's the correct term. A startup is like, you've just got going with you validated your idea and you're building you're now building to automate it in my mind. If you're a personal brand running a business, selling your time, you're a service provider, right? You're trying to become a business owner, but really you're a service provider. And I'm not trying to cut down the market, but when you are able to identify where you actually are, it gives you grace and your ego takes things away from you. And so when when in startups, people tend to give people these like wankerish titles that give them too much.
Wankerish.
You know what I mean? So stop calling yourself a startup and recognize that you've been selling time for money and you don't actually have a business. You need to set your business up. You need to know your data. If you don't know what you did last quarter, if you don't know what your expenses are versus your income, to say how does our method affect startups? Well, first of all, we start you up, right? We give you the data that you need in 12 months' time to then really go and accelerate your growth. And a lot of our clients do come back to us. It's a 12-week sort of program process to design, develop, and learn. And then they generally stay, and then they may kind of go away for 6 months and do some things with other people, and then they come back. Because now we go, okay, now we have the data to learn from. We have the proof of concept. We've got the messaging really dialed in because you've serviced so many people and you know the problem now because you've heard it. Let's change it. And that's when you should be making changes instead of every quarter trying to pump some new offer that you think is going to work based off what you see other people selling.
Do you know what? It's funny because I was speaking to a mentorship client the other day, and this guy has built a business and sold it and knows a lot, and I'm mentoring him. And we're talking about the acquisition of customers for his brand. Mm-hmm. And he's running traffic from the same source to two different offers. One is free to get him in the gym, but it converts at X rate. And obviously one's at £49, but converts at a drastically higher rate because these people have got skin in the game. What I was explaining to him was, when we looked at the numbers and looked at the data, was like, you do realise this £49 offer is the best thing that you can scale, because you've now got £49 to go and acquire a customer on Facebook or Instagram. You've got £49 to spend, essentially, to go and acquire that customer, because it's the same as you spending money. In fact, you're losing money when you're getting this one in for free that isn't converting at the back end. So he's actually spending £10 to acquire this free person to come through the door that might convert 1 in 10, but he's spending like £49 to acquire this customer that converts like 8 in 10.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you scale? It's not going to cost you £49 on Facebook and Instagram to go and acquire the customer. It's only going to cost you like £5 to £10 to acquire that customer for £49. So why wouldn't you scale that?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make. But people don't realize, because they don't look at the numbers correctly. They look at the total. They're running so many different channels and multiple offers, and then they're just looking at it as a whole and seeing what they converted at the back end and seeing what they're working out at.
Yeah.
It's the wrong data. If you're looking at the wrong data, you get the wrong metrics. When we broke it down, it's like, this is a no-brainer to scale.
Yeah.
And that will grow the business way faster than offering free.
I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with paid advertising, with sales coaching, with building a business right now. I feel business is what fitness was 10 years ago, right? Our parents had exercise instructors that weren't really that cool, and 10 years ago, the fitness industry went gangbusters. And then now everyone's in business, sales coaching, business coaching, consulting, whatever, paid strategies. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when you are good at what you do. And I think there's a lot of animosity around data, because instead of actually learning to run a business, you're trying to pay for the fast way. And you will learn with money or time, you will learn, and you can learn the expensive way or the hard way, but really you expedite growth when you get help. That's the truth of it, whether you learn what not to do or what to do. And I think with Facebook, there's a lot of, I know even some of my clients that have gone and done it before, I think they're ready. And the content that they're using, they're not necessarily the strategy. It's the content that I believe is the problem with why certain ads wouldn't be converting. And what I mean by that is you need to be quickly understood, relatable, relevant to your market, and whether you want to lead with an education ad, follow up with a sale. Ideally, you've got people selling your business for you that they can identify with, and you're not like, hey, I'm Jenna, come and work with me, right? It's more, this is how I went from this to this, sell the result, proof of concept, she helped me, off you go. And when you're a startup and you don't have that journey and that overwhelming burden of proof that then people can then click onto your site and see all the people that you've been helping, then the data is not going to be what you wanted it to be. And I think that's now, there's a lot of people being like, oh, Facebook ads and Google ads. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it is what it is on that front. I won't comment on it because I'm not as knowledgeable on it as I feel confident to be. So, but what I am seeing is people are either slamming Instagram, Facebook and ads, but their strategy, or slamming a strategy, but I'm like, it's not necessarily the strategy. It's still you. You know, you can have the best website, the best graphics, the best offer, but it's not going to work unless you do. If you don't know where to put your money, if you don't know how to show up and sell, if you don't actually get the results with these people, the whole strategy doesn't work. The whole thing. It
amazes me when it comes to creative. It's so simple to get the right creative for your ad. You run the creative as organic, and what gets the traction you run as an ad. Like it's a simple solution, because you already know. For argument's sake, if I was advertising this podcast, I would just use the clips I've already got that I've got millions of TikTok views, and I would run that as an ad on TikTok because I know it works on that platform. What got traction on Facebook, I would use that creative to run my ad on Facebook. Mm-hmm. What gets traction on YouTube Shorts will be different. Now, here's the thing. A TikTok that will go off and do 1.7 million on TikTok will only do like 40, 50,000 on the YouTube, right? Why? Well, because contextually, this platform it works on and this one it doesn't, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like that's how you get the creative. You test it organically, and then you can run a proper ad in the back end of these advertising platforms and run a proper ad and a call to action on it and get them to click through to your thing. Now you've solved the creative problem. Then you just work your way down the funnel and okay, now it's not converting at the back end. Well, you work on how you're closing, or if you're on a call or whatever it is, but you work it down the funnel. But the creative side, that's the easiest bit to fix first, because you can just test it organically and see what happens.
Everything you're saying is just data. And you're right. But the thing is, there's people trying to expedite the process. They're missing the time. There's a lack of patience. You need to test the data, test and refine and review it. But if you are new and you've only worked with 30 people in your business, it's not a lot, is it? Right? And if only 3 of them have done the thing that you claim to do, you've probably actually got to fill some holes in your bucket before you go paying for more traffic that's going to give you nothing.
Yes.
Right?
So don't drive traffic to something where your back end isn't going to scale as well.
Exactly. And this is the content conundrum that I am finding with a lot of the leads that we're getting. They're coming and they're saying, I'm posting all the time and it's not working. And I just said to this person yesterday, I'm actually not a content marketing coach or a content marketing specialist. I'm about marketing and branding, human behavior principles, scaling with tech. That is another element. But marketing before business setup is the tail wagging the dog. And maybe your marketing is so good that you make some money, you figure it out later, and then you invest in your business. But you can also really damage your brand by marketing and selling something that doesn't deliver what you claim. And also, if your marketing sucks, then because you haven't invested the time into doing the thing, even just for one person try and prove that you can do what you say you can do, so that you can use that one person to appeal to one other person. Geometric growth, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. Then all of a sudden, now you're more credible. 8 people can go get 16 people. Focus on that. Build. If you need to take a break from content marketing because it's causing you grief, but you're not making any money, come back and actually think like a business owner. Because you speak to one business owner in the corporate world, ask them what their marketing budget is. Go to Sanitarium, go to BHP, ask them what their marketing budget is. Right? I'm not going to say that marketing is not important. We're also not that kind of business. So we've got to compare apples to apples. But get your product right. Know your market. Lead from the front. You have to choose how you spend your time and money. Yeah. You've got to invest in yourself, your consumer, and your product. And then we can talk about your content.
Essentially, pouring petrol on the fire without the back end.
Exactly.
Without the back end sorted means you burn down your business, not set fire to the sales. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what you got to really get clear in your head. Because when I started contentremoval.com, I spent a lot of time the first 30 days just signing that big whale client, and then I thought, right, I'll just sign more of those. And I just did it one by one, but quickly built to $500,000 a year because I just went for one type of client and did that only. I didn't run Google ads and Facebook and Instagram and all this other crap. I didn't run all that. I literally just went cold outreach, cold email to the exact target demographic I'd planned to get and sign those. And I think a lot of people could actually scale better that way in the initial period to get the initial wins than they could going and spending money on ads.
100%. And it just comes down to ignorance. It's a lack of understanding because you don't have the business acumen or experience. And that's okay. That is okay. And so what you're going to do now is you're going to gain it. And that's what happens with experience. And time. You're going to try and spend money here. You're going to learn that was a ripoff. You're going to spend a lot of time here. And then you're going to learn to teach people what you do. That's running a business. You can't fast track that. And so many people are trying to. So I think really when it comes to scaling a business, you've got to take a step back and think, what are the real tools in my tool belt? And how can I use them in the best way possible? And who can I work with that can help me, that have done it for hundreds of people? Like, you can get advice from people a couple steps ahead of you, but if you're going to pay, my first piece of advice to you, because I'm sick of hearing about business coaches ripping off businesses or startups or people, is see how many people they've worked with, how many businesses have they worked in, have they got experience in business, or are they just teaching you how to do what they did, right? If they were a personal trainer and they built a huge empire and now they're teaching you how to do that with your PT business, fine, they've got credit, they've got merit. But have you got somebody teaching you something that they've never done themselves?
But also you got to ask yourself is what are your key skills? Like before I even started a podcast, I thought, am I a speaker or am I a writer? Because if I'm someone who's good at writing and articulating my ideas through written format, starting a podcast isn't the right idea. So it's like, well, you need to identify the skills that you're good at before you have a business, and then and if you're honest with yourself and radically honest at the start, you can then figure out the first hires that you need to fill in the gaps that you're not the best at. Because not everyone, when they're scaling a business, needs to go, not everyone needs the manager first or the sales guy first. If you're good at sales, if you be that guy, you might need someone else. You might need the fulfillment guys. Do you know what I'm saying? Like different, everyone's journey to building their first business and putting in their first 1, 2, 3 hires is different. And your key skills you need to know as soon as possible, because then you can figure out who you need. Right? I was speaking to one of the guys on the podcast, and he was saying that he doesn't start a business on his own. When he starts businesses, he validates the market, and then he starts a business with the key 5 team. He says the reason for doing that is, and he owns Dent, and he's Daniel Priestley. He's scaled, he's doing hundreds of millions now across his businesses. He says, why would I start a business on my own? Why wouldn't I start with the team of 5? Because you might need all these skills to fulfill it. It's just a different way of looking at it. He says you don't see anyone in the army going into a raid on a building, one Marine. You see a team of 5. That's the way he approaches business. But he's just learned that from going to a totally different level. It doesn't matter whether you do it the way that we're saying or you do it the way that Daniel says it. But the key thing that is prevalent in both ways is that you know who you are first and what you're good at, so you can put in the other people in the positions and have the ability to put them in when the time comes, whether that's at the start or whether that's in 3 or 4 weeks or 4 months. And people don't ever think, what am I actually good at? What are my key skills here? What is the last thing that I want to relinquish in my business?
And doesn't that just tie in so nicely to what we said before about knowing what you want to be doing, right? And people don't stop and think, what am I good at? What should I be doing? Because it's the same principle as knowing what you want to be doing. People are generally good at what they like to do. And so, that what you just said, I feel like just really loops back around so nicely around checking in with yourself and having these moments of awareness. And yes, data helps you. Data will help you shine a light on these areas of your weak points. And it can look different for everyone. It could be your health data when you're sick and you realize that you've been put in a place because your life choices weren't suitable, or your business is in a position because your business decisions are not suitable.
I've got a client, right? Another mentorship client. They came to me and he was pulling his hair out, and he'd scaled his business to a couple of million and he wanted to scale it faster. And I was asking him what he's doing in the business, and he sounded to me like he was a manager. And I said, "What are you managing? Why are you managing the business for when your best asset is sales? Like, that's your best asset. Why are you not out on the front line selling? Why have you put yourself in the management role?" So we switched it around. We're putting a general manager in there. He's come back into sales. Guess what? The revenue's fucking done. It's gone up, hasn't it? A lot. So in a short period of time. Why? Because he's doing the apex skill that he should have been doing in his business. But all the time you see people start the business, they're a creative. Many people that start businesses are creatives. Matt from Space Goods is a great example of a creative. He's great at the digital side, seeing the vision, creating the brand, this and the other. That's his key skill. So he is now not the CEO and the guy running Space Goods. He's hired someone in there, and he's done that because he knows he needs to be creative and brand, not the CEO, not the guy that's running the CFO and everything else that's going on in that business. That's radical honesty right there, and that's how you've got to operate. If you operate like that, everything becomes a lot easier, and business doesn't become this game where you're fighting the world all the time, and you can actually move forward.
The power of choice. And coming back to one of the realizations that I really had recently was there's perceived limitations, there's layers to commitment, there's things that hold us back in life, but it's not real. If you were to die tomorrow, the world would go on. So all the things that are holding you back are really just the choices that you make. You know, I never would have thought that I could move countries, and I've been forced to live in another country, and I've shown myself everything that held me back around exploring that idea was not real. And it's choosing to really open your eyes and your mind to that sort of a thing. And I think you also can play the same cards in business. There's decisions that are too scary or too hard to make, or you know, the thoughts in your head that hold you back, too much pride, too much ego, being stubborn, whatever it is. But as soon as you realize you got a lot to learn, there's a lot of people who can teach you, and you choose to invest in continuing to ask yourself, am I on the right path? Am I living an aligned life? Is my business the vessel that I want it to be? Then, like I said, you'll be, people will choose for you if you don't choose yourself.
I often ask this at the end of every podcast because I think it really does make people think, and it gives the audience something really deep and meaningful to kind of end on. But if there was one thing, Jenna, that if you had to leave the world tomorrow, check out, because obviously you've been in that situation quite recently, but you could just leave, like, you can't leave anything else physical, you can't leave this impact that you're talking about and all this other stuff, you can't leave any of that, but you could just leave one pearl of wisdom for this audience that could move them forward at least 1% in their life from today, what would that be to you?
Being who you are is a gift. If you are free to really be true to yourself and to be the version of yourself that makes you happy, that lights up a room, to live your purpose, I think that's a gift, and everyone has it. It's killed by society, conditioning, programming, our environment, our parents, our friends, our co-workers. Like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but when you're a kid, you can go wherever you want. The world is yours. And I think my greatest advice to anyone really is, like, really get really deep with who you are, because that is your guiding star. That's your nucleus, and your life will thrive and flourish when you really live your truth. And I don't believe people are malice or vindictive. I'm not saying there's, you know, there's sad, unhappy people in the world. Why do you think that is? Because they're not being who they are, I feel. So that's how I would answer that question.
Yeah, I love it. I feel that, yeah. I feel like you've had a real good reset. You know, I think the most beautiful thing has come out of something that from the outside wasn't so beautiful, but I think something else allow you to flourish in other areas of your life and allow you to realign. I think that's a beautiful thing. And guys, I just want to say, I hope from this podcast you have got some real actionable insights into things that you can do and things that you can put into your business and ways that you can look into your business so you can market better, so it can serve you and serve your audience and serve everyone else, all your customers and clients, in a way that is more fulfilling for you and allows you to earn the money that you want to earn in your business. And I hope this one helps you do that. Do me a solid favor, subscribe to on every platform, share this with your friends. I would really appreciate that. It really helps more than you know. And I appreciate every single one of you listening. Much love. Guys, do me a solid favor, drop a comment below this video and let us know who you want on the podcast next.